Hey, y'all, my bad. The power went out. So, I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna put
The 2023 Kia Sportage was built with more room for your passengers, more cargo space for your things, and more room for it.
Whether there is a probability that the defendant, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, would commit criminal acts of violence that society. Answer, yes. Signed by the foreperson. Answers to special issue number 2. Whether taking into consideration all the evidence,
what the fuck
including
is this?
the defendant, there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer, yes. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Verdict on punishment as to count number 2. Special issue number 1. Whether there is a probability that the defendant, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, would commit criminal acts of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society.
Trying to do this and some
Answer,
other shit,
yes.
So
Signed by the foreperson of the jury.
Feel me? We're gonna go back and review it and all that.
As to special issue number 2. Whether taking into consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character and background, and the personal moral culpability of the defendant, there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer, yes. Signed by the foreperson of this jury.
All right, joining me to discuss this verdict is criminal defense attorney Natalie Whittingham Burrell. And Natalie, what was your reaction when the jury came back and voted unanimously to give the defendant life without parole as opposed to the death penalty?
I was surprised, actually, just given the nature of the offense, that this is a parent on a child, where a parent is convicted of killing a child and his ex or his mistress, however you want to put it, all over child support. I myself am not an advocate of the death penalty. It's just that where the death penalty is legal, you would think that the death of a child alone would be enough to aggravate to the death penalty. And so I'm just genuinely surprised.
Were you shocked on how long the decision making took to return with a verdict?
No, I guess, you want them to have some consideration about it and take their time to think about it. That they took their time to deliberate, no, but that this was their ultimate outcome. That was surprising to me.
All right. Well, Natalie, I want us now to recap some key moments from the penalty phase closing arguments. We're going to take a listen and then we'll talk about it.
Listen, the state of Texas did not create this situation. We didn't create the facts or the circumstances or the evidence. As hard as he tried to disturb, to stage, to alter the crime scene, we found it. Now we're handing you the baton. We brought it to you. What did Dr. Fernandez say? The person who did this had knowledge. The person who did this had knowledge. This man had the knowledge. And what did I say in opening about clarity? After those 27 stab wounds and killing this innocent mother, he walks the 20 yards over to the stroller, gets in front of this little baby. And it's like he's looking in the mirror, Mr. Boggs. He's looking right at himself. And he opens that buckle, takes the little phone out of his hands, puts it down, picks him up, takes him over to the grass, lays him down, picks up the shirt. He wanted to get it right. He picks up this one of Dominic's favorite shirts. And he pierces, aiming for his heart. And he doesn't stop there. He doesn't stop there. When little baby Dominic is still alive, he goes for the jugular. How long did it take baby Dominic to die? With every beat of his heart, he would lose blood. What was going through his mind? Where's mommy? Where's my mommy? This man was a stranger, dude. He stabbed this poor lady 27 times. Don't you think that should be put into your formula somewhere? That he used a knife? He used a knife. That he cut his son's throat using a knife. Killing your own family member. Does that go into your formula? No, that's not a variable that goes into consideration. The severity was not considered. When asked about the video interview to look at his behavior, you're a psychologist. Don't you think it's important to look at the behavior of the subject that you're going to opine on? Well, I fast forwarded that section. Come on, man. No, that's wrong.
Judge, objection. The state fast forwarded through their own video for this juror.
Never did, Your Honor. Never did. We brought you everything.
I don't want anyone to say that anything we've said excuses anything Ronald has said. All right? I'm in complete agreement with the district attorney. It is unforgivable. All right? No one is saying that excuse it, but it is a window into his moral blameworthiness. And you remember during your voir dire how these district attorneys all said you're going to answer a question about his moral blameworthiness. All right? Now, there's a difference between blame and moral blameworthiness. All right? He's blamed. You've convicted him. All right? He is blamed. There's no doubt about it. He's going to die in prison no matter what your individual choices are. He's blamed. But as you evaluate his moral blameworthiness, you have to think about what was going on in his head, just as what this district attorney did for Juan David Ortiz. It's the exact same logic. I'm asking you to use it. Now, you should also consider the district attorney's argument about the escapee that killed 5 people. And you remember he literally just referred to it 45 minutes ago. Well, you know, it doesn't happen much, but it does happen, and they could get out and they might kill a bunch of people, all right? Do you remember that escapee's record, Gonzalo Lopez? He had a decades-long history of criminal acts, right? That is nothing like Ronald Burgos Aviles. Nothing like Ronald Burgos Aviles. And again, I'm going to keep repeating it. I'm asking you to condemn the sin and not the man. Ronald is guilty, all right? Breaks my heart, all right? Breaks my heart to think that the man that I've been working with, that I've sat next to, that I know is guilty. It literally breaks my heart. But I'm going to say to you what we all wish that we could have said to Ronald on April 9th of that year, which is this: you don't have to do it. Okay? You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Ronald, you don't have to do it. Please condemn the sin and not the sinner. Vote with your conscience and follow your oath. We are all God's children, or none of us are God's children.
So there you have it. We just heard the prosecutor discuss the horror of these crimes. And Natalie, what do you think went through the jurors' minds hearing the facts of the case, but yet still voting to avoid the death penalty?
Well, the thing that I have to always keep in mind is that with the unanimity decision, where all of the jurors would have to make the determination that he would get the death penalty or life in prison, that is going to be ripe for dissent. The defense attorney only needs to find one person who has a moral compass that's going to say, I'm going to condemn the crime, but not the criminal. That's what he was calling upon, for them not to condemn his client to death. And so you just need one, as opposed to Demons, where they have a much lower number they need to get to in order to get to the death penalty. I think that's what this was a function of, was finding that one person or two or three people in there who, on their conscience, could not condemn the person. And then they also point to the fact that he didn't have a criminal record, which is, kind of ironic because he was, I think, if I remember correctly, in law enforcement. So I don't really think that makes it much better. But either way, that was a factor in his favor, mitigating it.
Meanwhile, the defense attorney argued to condemn the sin and not the man. What are your impressions of that, and do you think it had an effect on the jury?
I think it must have. He repeated it over and over again. I'm sure he mooted it with his colleagues. I'm sure he, put a lot of thought into using that as the theme of his closing argument in the sentencing phase. And I think that he was pulling on maybe some heartstrings there, maybe pulling on a judge not lest you be judged kind of religious underpinning when he said that we are all God's children. So I certainly think that he very deliberately used that in order to pull on the heartstrings of the jury. And like I said, he only needed one juror or two or three who would not go for the death penalty with that on their conscience.
All in all, just so sad, especially when you see a picture of the mother and the son, as that was put up just a couple of moments ago. All right, we have to take another quick commercial break here, but when we come back, we will have more trial coverage, including recapping for you what happened today in the YNW Melly double murder trial. We're back in a moment. You're watching Law and Crime.
Upgrade your vocal mix from this
How can we keep in touch?
to this.
How can we keep in touch if I can't even touch you?
Experience the latest vocal enhancing technology for yourself at the click of a button. You no longer have to spend hours trying to make your vocals sound professional. I've already done it for you with Rise Up Audio vocal presets. Start saving thousands of dollars by avoiding sound engineer fees, studio time, and expensive plugins by letting the presets do the work for you. Inspired by today's top artists, these presets will have you sounding radio ready in seconds. And the best part, our presets use plugins you already have, so there's no need to download new software. Download one for yourself now at riseupaudio.com.
If you edit video, you need great voiceover work. Whether your video calls for
a classic, extraordinary voice from yesteryear,
or a fresh, totally modern voice that passes the vibe check.
Voices will make you an offer you can't refuse.
Whatever voice you need, Voices has it.
self-serving and intended to elicit sympathy as to his upbringing or anything of that nature. He admits to committing an arson of a forest in it. They left that in. So, Your Honor, it's completely self-serving. And for the purposes of sympathy, there's nothing on the issues in this case. It was introduced to limited portions of the state to show that the defendant had put out a statement indicating he was a victim of a drive-by and placing himself, based on that documentary, which was released in December 2018, that he was a victim of a drive-by shooting.
Is that correct, Mr. Edson?
Mr. Howard would be
sure. Is that correct?
As to what the state's purpose for putting that in was?
No, as to what's contained in the rest of the video.
Oh, well, it's a documentary. Now, if there is a portion concerning arson of forests, we would take that out as well because we wouldn't want that in there. I didn't notice that to exist. But essentially, it's a documentary that the state introduced in order to demonstrate that Mr. Demons claimed it was a drive-by. It was a promotional documentary that was put out by his label, not by him. So it shouldn't have been introduced for that purpose because it's misleading as to attributing the statement at the end of the documentary to Mr. Demons. But beyond that, we think for sake of completeness, what the state did was edited portions that they wanted to put in, and we're asking to put the rest in absent any improperly prejudicial portions. And we'll take a look at it again to the extent that there's any reference to a forest arson. I missed that entirely, but we would be taking that out as well.
How long is the video?
I think the total was a 12-minute documentary. The state put in about 2.5 minutes of it, and with the edited portions, it's probably around 8 minutes or so.
Well, this, you have it here so they can play it?
It's here, and they have played it. They've seen it.
All right, so why don't you play it for me?
Sure. I don't know. But yeah, we would certainly be removing any arson admissions that we overlooked.
I am your favorite rapper. I don't care who the fuck you like. I am your favorite singer. I don't care who it is. I am them. I watch every video they did, every mistake they made, every good thing they did, every sound they made. I know that shit. I know how to do it.
Documentary certainly gives us a better sense and deeper look in the life of Melly and his circle. The question is, should that have been admitted? Well, our Natalie Whittingham-Burrell will give us her thoughts after a quick break here on Law and Crime. Stay with us.
All right, man. I'm back. Had to clean some stuff. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm back. You feel me? Back in full attack. So I guess this is another trial. This is something different, right? We talk about Yeah, this is another trial.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay, again, page 33.
No, ma'am.
About threats asked.
So will not be no court tomorrow. What gathering? Damn, I ain't gonna lie. Fuck it. Trying to clean some shit, you know. But yeah, man.
Welcome back to Law and Crime Network. We continue our coverage in the YNW Melly double murder trial. Prior to the break, we heard the direct examination of Adrian Davis, the defendant's friend since the 6th grade. But now I want us to take a listen to the cross, and then we'll chat about it.
Davis, you said you're 100% sure that Mr. Dennis found out at the same time you did?
Yes.
No questions about that? You're sure he was at that house?
Yes.
And you were upstairs?
Yes, ma'am.
He was downstairs?
Yes.
But you're sure he was there? You could see him?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you are 100% sure his phone was missing?
Yes.
Where in the statement on May 5th did you ever say that?
Mr. Judge.
It was never asked.
Thank you. Counsel, so I guess the improper impeachment, so rephrase your question.
So, you met with me on May 5th, 2020.
He was never asked.
Yes.
And you remember sitting down, you were present? That's a yes?
Yes.
Your 2 attorneys were present that you brought? That's a yes?
Yes.
And I asked you questions for quite a number of hours. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember being asked if you had met with anyone else with regards to this case?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember being asked if you had met prior to speaking with me with the attorney sitting over to my left?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know who they were, and my lawyers told you that.
Okay.
I didn't know their names.
But you remember meeting with them?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember asking and being asked a question about what you talked about with them?
Yes.
Did you remember what you told them?
No.
Do you remember what you told them now?
Yes.
So are you telling this jury that when you were speaking with me, you forgot?
As in, what I'm telling them now, as of right now, yes.
So on the phone on that, do you remember if Mr. Devins had a passcode on his cell phone back then?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? And in terms of, would you be surprised to find that there was one on that cell phone?
No.
Did you know the passcode?
I don't think so. I don't even remember if he had one. We all use this phone sometimes. We all use each other's phones.
So you would use his cell phone? Why?
Talk to females.
You pretend to be him to get women? Because you couldn't get them on your own?
Objection.
Why would you use his phone then?
Let me rule before you ask the next question. All right? It's overruled. Go ahead, answer your question. Go ahead, ask the next question.
So, with regards to your living situation there, you were not paying any rent, right?
Oh, no.
And nobody was paying any rent in that house except for the defendant.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So, do you remember that evening driving to the studio?
Yes.
Do you remember who was in which car?
On the way there, yes.
And you remember who was on each car on the way back?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any threats that were made to anyone that night?
No, ma'am.
Did anyone have any other conversations or discussions about threats from outside parties?
No, ma'am.
Is anyone worried about their safety?
No, ma'am. But Melly's a rapper, you know, he's always gonna be a target.
I'm sorry.
I said he's a rapper, so he's always gonna be a target.
Okay. And do you remember stopping on the side of the road?
Yes.
Where did you stop?
I don't remember. It's like flashes and blinks, drinking and smoking, so I just know we stopped.
You know you stopped.
Yeah.
And do you remember if that was on a highway?
Not at all.
Okay, do you remember if it was on a divided 4-lane road?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember if you guys were using GPS to get home?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do you remember if you knew the route home?
No.
Do you remember what phone number you had back then?
What up?
No, ma'am.
You don't remember your phone number?
5 years ago, so.
Okay. Do you remember if you were awake or asleep?
I just told you. We were asleep.
You were asleep.
Yeah.
And you said you were intoxicated?
You answer out loud.
Yes.
Do you know why the car stopped?
No.
Do you have any conversations or messages with the defendant?
No, ma'am.
Do you have a phone call with him?
No, ma'am.
When you stopped, was the gray Jeep in front of the red Mitsubishi?
Yeah, I believe so.
Have you ever answered that question differently?
I don't think so.
If I were to show you your statement from May 5th, 2022, would that help you in answering if you'd ever said something different than what you just testified in court?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, approaching with page 33 of the statement, counsel. And you just read silently to yourself.
Yeah. I basically told you I don't remember.
Okay, so now your answer is I don't remember if the Jeep was in front or the Mitsubishi was in front.
If you watched the video, they put it off first, so.
You watched the video.
You showed it to me.
In terms of the trial, have you been watching that online?
No, ma'am.
In terms of when you got home, you mentioned that you said Mr. Demons went to his room.
Yes.
Have you ever answered that question differently?
No.
Okay. On May 5th, 2022, remember that statement? At that point, did you say, I don't know where he went? I assume his room.
I don't know.
You don't? But looking at your statement, help refresh your recollection on that?
Yes.
Okay, page 34, lines 12 and 13, counsel.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you previously give a different statement that you didn't know where he went and you were assuming he went to his room?
Yeah, he went in his room.
So with regards to the car, you're saying that you got pushed over when somebody got in the car?
Yeah.
Okay. And with regards to being pushed over, did you wake up when that happened?
Like it was flashes, like, yeah, I guess you could say I woke up.
Okay. And did they move you over or climb over you?
I don't remember.
Have you ever made a statement that's different than that?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay. Again, page 33. Question was asked, did they climb over to get you to the middle over you to get to the middle of the back seat? Your answer was, I think I was at the window, so no, I think they might have climbed over me.
Okay.
So is it your testimony that somebody climbed over you or you pushed over?
I mean,
it ain't the same shit.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
You don't really remember?
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the phone, right? Did you see anyone get into that gray Jeep?
No.
You remember going to Frito Bank's house?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember seeing the defendant there? Is that a yes?
Yeah, he was there with us.
And you remember leaving there afterwards?
Yes.
And you remember going back to the defendant's house?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember at that point that when you went back to the defendant's house, it was you, Travion Glass, or Fetty, and Jacoby Moss. That's it?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And you said that you were in and out of sleep and intoxicated.
Yes.
And in terms of you remember that Travion was the last person to get out of the car?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
You believe so, or do you remember? Which is it?
Yes.
And you know, and you mentioned about Mr. Demmons looking for his phone, right?
Yes.
So of course he used your phone to call it and try and find it, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember how he was trying to find his phone?
He's just in the house looking for it, just like you would do if you lost yours.
So he didn't, try and do Find My iPhone or anything like that. Of course he used yours to do that, right?
I don't remember.
Of course he used something like, an Apple iWatch and set it off.
Objection, there's no testimony that he had
I
it.
don't remember.
Excuse me.
Okay.
One at a time. You asked the question. Objection noted. Overruled.
So of course he did all that. He went on Find My iPhone and he's looking for it.
I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember. Okay. And of course he is using everybody else's phone to try and find it.
I don't know.
You don't remember. Okay. But conveniently the phone's missing that morning.
Objection to the form.
Sustained.
Yes.
I sustain the objection.
So with regards to your conversation, you texted back and forth with the defendant prior to this event occurring, right?
Yes.
And he had sent you a picture of his driver's license from that phone number.
Yes.
So you knew Mr. Demmons, the defendant, Melly, to use that cell phone, 772-713-9807.
I don't know what the numbers is.
You had them saved in your phone, right?
Yeah, but I can't just remember that phone number like that. From that number,
And your testimony is that he's looking all over the house.
yeah.
So in terms of the phone, did you see it again that day?
I don't remember.
Don't remember. Okay. And in terms of the phone traveling up to the video shoot up in Cocoa, you don't know how the phone would have gotten up there.
I don't know.
And you didn't shoot Mr. Williams or Mr. Thomas, right?
No.
But you know who we're talking about, right?
Chris and Anthony.
Yes. And in terms of the messages and things for Mr. Henry, you're aware that his phone was broken at that time, right?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
In terms of Mr. Demons, you know he was dating Mariah Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know that Mr. Demons would FaceTime her on a regular basis.
Objection.
What's the objection?
There's no evidence of that.
I don't know.
So you know, and Mr. Demons would,
Excuse me, use the correct name.
Mr. Demons, my apologies. Mr. Demons would FaceTime and video chat frequently.
Just the
Wait, she called that man Mr. Demons?
Excuse me, use the correct name.
Mr. Demons, of the messages and things for Mr. Henry, you're aware that his phone was broken at that time, right?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
In terms of Mr. Demons, you know he was dating Mariah Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know that Mr. Demons would FaceTime her on
You keep on saying Mr. Demons.
a regular basis.
Objection.
What's the objection?
There's no evidence of that.
I don't know.
So you know, and Mr. Demons would,
Excuse me, use the correct name.
Mr. Demons, my apologies. Mr. Demons would FaceTime and video chat frequently.
Just the phone. You got a phone for it.
All right, so we just heard the prosecutor hammer the witness about the statements he made to prior of May of 2022. What does our legal panel think of all of this? Well, find out after this break. We'll be right back.
I'm trying to see.
Again from our Law and Crime studios here in New York. So before the break, we heard the prosecutor hammer Adrian Davis about the statements he made in May of 2022, where he never mentioned Melly was in the other vehicle or that he even saw Melly go to his room, and all of that had our legal panel's ears perk up as they are itching to give us their thoughts. Former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Marie Pereira and forensic psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober back with me. Marie, what did you make of that snippet of the cross, and how is that going to affect the witness's credibility?
I think she attacked his credibility quite well. She got him to admit and impeach him with his own written words from a prior statement where he said he wasn't sure if Mr. Demings was in the house. And then now he's saying, I 100% was sure he was in the house. And I think that her cross-examination was quite effective. And at the end of the day, I think that prosecution has a problem because they're going to have a problem proving that Mr. Demings is the one that committed this murder based on the facts that I've seen, even with the effective cross-examination of the defense witness.
And Dr. Bober, we saw the prosecutor make a snarky comment along the lines of, did you use Melly's phone because you couldn't get women yourself? Now, what does that say about the prosecutor's professionalism here, if anything, and do you think that will affect the jury in any way?
You know, it's difficult to know how these things are interpreted, but I think sometimes prosecutors and defense attorneys will do that to throw witnesses off balance, to anger them, to make them lose their focus, especially when they're trying to impeach their credibility. So I think it's a risky tactic, and I think some people will be offended by it and turned off by it, or some people may even find it amusing and entertaining. So it really depends on who's viewing it, I think.
Marie, during the redirect, the defense attorney says lead detective Mark Moretti never spoke to Adrian Davis. Why do you think that is, and was that an oversight from investigators?
I think it maybe was an oversight, but it certainly shows that there was some shoddy police work there, because at the end of the day, we're not here to just single on one person and investigate that one person. We're here for justice. So if there was anyone else that could have disproven the fact that the accused is the one that did it, they should have called that person as well.
All right, Dr. Bober, very quickly, as the jury watches this, do you think they may react and feel, because of loyalty and the close bond that he had with Melly, that Adrian Davis may be making all of this up and not be trustworthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tremendous incentive to lie, right? When you think about the people that are closest to us in our lives and what we would do for them if they were in a situation like this. So yeah, I do think that.
All right. Well, Marie and Dr. Bober, this hour flew by. Thank you so much for your great analysis and insight. We hope to see you both again soon. But don't go anywhere, because we have plenty of more YNW Melly double murder trial coverage here on Law and Crime. We will be right back. Stay with us.
Consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character.
District Attorney's argument about the escapee.
Crime still has plenty of more trial coverage ahead. The Daily is up next. See you soon.
And there's we gonna see. But motherfuckers is saying. Hold on, I'm trying to get a good one. But all the shit ties up though. Like I said with Glass, said, oh, he saw Melly in the whatchamacallit. He comes out the room, he seen Melly in the all that shit ties up. We looking through this. I'm trying to figure out. My electric went out, man, and just cut off. I'm back on here. I don't really. Let me see. Let's type in. Heck. We're gonna look at some Bruce Rivers. He's looking at this is the
best way to get started on Amazon in 2023 is not by selling physical products like everyone thinks.
It's what he said. I'm sorry.
Again, now we're getting to more stuff. Threatened to be federally indicted on gun sales. Okay, that's okay. I mean, if he's got some charges out there, some facts out there, but it gets worse. Again, it's building, right? First, it's just perjury. Then it's federal indictments for gun sales. And then it just continues to get worse to what he does to these witnesses to try to threaten them. And again, if your theory is he's pinning it on Melly because he's famous or whatever, because he's the first guy, because you were too lazy to go after the other 13 suspects or 14 suspects, then it starts to build. And that's why I did think this was the best part across. He ended with it, so it makes sense to end with your best part. But I think because the best part of your cross-examination is crushing the credibility of the officer, it maybe would have been even better to start with it so that everything is tainted that the officer says the rest of the time.
Did you, in fact, tell him that he would not see his kids for a couple of years? Possibly. Well, may I approach? Yes.
And the officer's saying, like, oh, yeah, possibly. But it's like, come on, you know how that conversation goes. You don't want to tell me this? You're not going to see your kids for years. You're going to be federally indicted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. When he lies, and that's still under arrest.
Did you in fact tell him he would be deported to Haiti?
Yes.
Did you in fact tell him that?
Now he's talking about track. This is when he talk about track. That's when he talks about track. Going to deport him to Haiti.
Like the fact that he has lived in this country since he's been 5 years old, he would be deported. That these are his words. I'm sorry. I apologize.
My boy was cooking, man. That's the day. The boy was cooking. Like, again, that's him saying, like, and he says this on the live. He said, I was down here since I was 5 years old. So how you going to deport me back to Haiti? That shit crazy.
You, as a trained investigator, threatened Jameson Francois to be deported to Haiti, even though he's been in this country since 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Did you, in fact, threaten that he would not get any medicine in the Haitian jails?
I don't know what that
So now you're threatening people that they're going to get deported. They're not going to get fed or medication in Haitian jails. That's taking it so far. That's not just saying if you lie, it's perjury. Are you sure you want to commit perjury? You know, that's the type of stuff where it's like, okay, I can understand. If you want to say, you know, don't lie, make sure you're being honest with me, because if you perjure yourself, if you think somebody's lying, you know, you could be looking at prison time. It could be a third-degree felony, whatever. That's a lot different than I'm going to take your kids. Federal indictments are coming for other crimes, not perjury. You're going to go to Haiti. You're not going to get any food. You're not going to get any medication. You're basically going to die in prison. Totally different. Totally different.
Threatening a witness is.
Objection, Your Honor. What's the objection?
Relevance.
I overrule this role, so ask your question.
Do you threatening a witness who tells you something that you don't like really gets to the truth?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Stay.
I think that's a fair question. I mean, I think you would have said no, but I think that's a fair question. It is relevant. This guy questioned every witness in this case. Not everyone, but a lot of them.
When you questioned Jameson Francois, were you alone, or did you bring immigration officers with you?
We were at the Chrome Detention Center, so of course the immigration officer had to be there.
So you're questioning him with immigration officers, threatening to have him deported. Come on. That's messed up. That's messed up. Listen, I get it. If you think somebody's lying to you, then arrest them for perjury. But to threaten them and try to have them change their statement is totally inappropriate, in my opinion. All right. So that's it for that part across. Now, one of the things that this defense attorney did is argument, but it sounds like even the detective, like when I say even the detective agrees, these are the 14 suspects in this case, and he didn't even investigate them. So it sounds like, you know, that's one thing, but I'm making an argument based on the evidence that the detective saw. You could say, yeah, but we crossed all these out. She doesn't cross all of them out, but we crossed these out. And that's, I think, effective. And that's what she did here.
Information do you have in this case that puts Montrell rule at the scene?
This has to bring.
On the first day, I did $12,000. And that was like, wow, that was cool. And it got to the point.
Bring his own answer. Don't remind.
Do you have any indication whatsoever that either of those?
Oh, so he's also a defendant, not necessarily somebody we're just going to point the finger at, but somebody that's also being charged, which I think can go a lot of different ways. Sometimes that's allowed to come out. Sometimes it's not. So how does the text make you feel? The I did that text. Is that slam dunk guilty, or do you still think there are issues with the case, reasonable doubts potentially? And number two, the fact that the jury now knows Cortland Henry has his own charges as a co-defendant, meaning in a lay person's mind, what does that make you think? If you hear just randomly that this person's a co-defendant, what does that make you think? Let me know in the comments. Because what first pops into my head is they did this together. They're both responsible. That's fine. He's going to have his own trial. I'm just focused on Melly, but they can't just point the finger at Henry because they did this together, is I think what most lay people would potentially think about that. So let me know, please. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate you all joining me. Sorry it couldn't be live. I still want to hear what questions you have. I'm looking at Twitter. I'm looking at Instagram. @TragosLaw is my handle on there. If you want to still continue to ask me questions and let me know what you think the fireworks are of the day, and I will try to hit them whenever I have time on this trip. Hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks.
So, I'm trying to see if anybody, talked about it or whatever the case may be. But I just had to come back on here because again my electric went out. So they said there's no court tomorrow. I am gonna go live, look at the Greedo joint because it's an hour long. I am gonna do that. So yeah, this joint wasn't as long as the other ones, but yeah. See y'all in the next time.